All right, December 30th, and it's time to take a deep dive into our local weather. We've got plenty to talk about today, that is for sure. The day started on a raucous note with wind and warm temperatures and some rain showers, and then things did calm down this afternoon, but it was a big change. Temperature-wise, this 60 at 7 a.m. was only one shy of the record high for today's date. We almost tied a record at 7 in the morning, but then, of course, our cold front came through. The initial front knocked us back into the lower 50s, and then kind of a secondary push of cooler air kicked us back into the mid-40s starting early in the afternoon hours. The big story this morning was, of course, the wind. We had some local damage in parts of Trumbull County, and at the Youngstown Warren Airport, which is in Vienna, 47 miles per hour. That was the peak wind gust at 6:52 this morning. And I know the wind woke me up this morning a little after 7 a.m. Heard my windows rattling. It was pretty noisy, but it wasn't an all-day affair. It stayed breezy this afternoon, but those extreme wind gusts were confined to the early morning hours. Lots and lots of wind reports from this morning, and wherever you see a tree kind of toppled over on these icons, that's wind damage that was called into the National Weather Service. So a lot of that from around Columbus up towards Sandusky and Toledo, and over towards Cleveland and Akron, and of course into our area as well. All right, this big low is continuing to produce some problems in parts of the country this evening. It's been an icy, messy day across parts of the Hudson Valley in upstate New York, and then heading over towards the Boston and Providence and Manchester areas with a mix of sleet and rain and sleet and kind of the whole 9 yards. Our next weather maker is actually up here. Now, our low pressure system, you can kind of pick it out by looking at the circulation on the radar this evening. There's a little disturbance on the west side of this, kind of a mini cold front, if you will, or a trough of low pressure. This is what's going to rotate down over the next 12 to 18 hours and cause some problems for us. Tomorrow, not many problems tonight. A couple of showers and sprinkles over the next couple of hours, a couple of flurries late tonight. Really don't think this is much of anything to be concerned about tomorrow morning, as temperatures will be near or a little above freezing. Let's talk about tomorrow. So it's New Year's Eve tomorrow. If you're getting ready to host a party or getting set to head out for the evening or doing anything that involves being in the car and being on the roads tomorrow afternoon. All right, no problems in the morning hours, really just some flurries. Right around lunchtime and taking us into the afternoon. This is when this kind of band of steady snow will probably push through, and embedded in this band of steady snow could be some localized squalls that will reduce the visibility pretty quickly. And it is late December, and the sun angle is very low, and so even during the day, if it snows hard enough, it can stick. You know, we oftentimes talk about snow in November and March having a hard time sticking if it falls during the day. Well, in the dead of winter, when the sun is as weak as it is now, there's not enough incoming solar radiation or energy to prevent snow from sticking. So anything untreated tomorrow afternoon with temperatures around 32, there can be some accumulation with this. Now, the good news for those who are planning on heading out in the evening, maybe coming to downtown Youngstown, maybe doing something else for New Year's Eve, the impactful steady snow, the problematic snow will be long gone by about mid-evening. So 8, 9, 10 o'clock tomorrow evening, it's not much more than some scattered flurries, although it's going to be windy and it's going to be cold. Now, as far as accumulations go, this is going to be modest. This is not all the snow in the world, but we want you to focus on the impacts. But as far as accumulations go, here's a look at our model spread. Anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches is pretty much the spread right now. Our forecast goes along with that. I think the most likely accumulation for the most locations will be around 1 inch. That's for the most locations. There will be some locations that get more than that, I suspect, especially in parts of northern Trumbull County, maybe northern Mercer County as well, even though this really isn't lake effect. A little lake enhancement is something that can occur and kind of boost the totals in those places a little bit. Yeah, 2 inches or so could accumulate in places such as Kinsman and over towards Greenville and kind of the usual suspects. But for a lot of us, yeah, about 1 inch. It's not all the snow in the world, but again, it could be impactful because it will stick if it comes down hard enough on any untreated surfaces. So, you know, your secondary roads, your sidewalks, parking lots, on your deck, on your car top, yeah, the snow can have no trouble sticking tomorrow afternoon. And if we get some squalls, you know, we've had this a couple of times this winter, as we always have, a few opportunities in the winter for impactful squalls that really reduce the visibility quickly. And even though accumulation's fairly modest, when you get a sudden reduction in visibility, we can have pile-up accidents. And we just saw that not that long ago near 76 and 80 in Mahoning County. That's kind of one trouble spot that we oftentimes have when we have those borderline whiteout situations. All right, as we flip the calendar over to 2020 tomorrow night at midnight, 21 WFMJ and WBCB were the media sponsor of First Night Youngstown. I hope many of you will be downtown tomorrow evening. Outside, well, it's going to be cold. Now, of course, we've had much colder New Year's Eves before, but 29 with wind chills in the teens, that's certainly bundle up kind of weather. Probably some flurries around. Nothing real impactful as far as snow goes at midnight tomorrow night. We'll hang on to the clouds into the morning hours on Wednesday. New Year's Day morning could feature a random flurry or two, especially north of I-80. But then I think actually it turns out to be a fairly sunny afternoon and a sunny start to Thursday, followed by increasing clouds. But also because of this warm frontal passage, we're looking for increasing temperatures. On Thursday, we're right back in the mid-40s. Now in the medium term here, the 6 to 10 day outlook, there is some cold to talk about here. So we're talking about late in the upcoming weekend through the first half of next week. Nothing too unusual for the middle of winter and early January, but we're probably going to have a few days with highs in the 20s early next week, lows in the teens. Too early to really talk about specifics in terms of any snow opportunities, really, but it will be a colder pattern for a few days, but I don't think it locks in. You know, at this time of the year, a lot of times the cold tries to lock in for a while. Once we get into January, especially kind of mid-January, that's the time of the year that climatologically speaking, we have the highest odds of seeing severe cold. Not this year, though. This cold that comes early next week only lasts a few days, and then I do think by mid-month, we are in what I described earlier on Twitter as a blowtorch pattern. Now, it's middle of January, so it's not like it's going to be 80 degrees, but the middle of January does not look cold. In fact, it looks very mild for the dead of winter. All right, coming up this evening on ericwfmj.com, that's my weather blog, ericwfmj.com. I'll have a written version of the year in review 2019. This is just a kind of a broad overview of what I determined were the top 3 weather stories in the calendar year 2019. I think by far and away, easy choice here. Number 1 was the flooding problems that we had back in the spring and early summer. On May 28th alone, we had 2, 3, 4 inches of rain in many, many communities, leading to pretty big-time flooding problems. Of course, we had the big problems with roads being washed out, especially up in northeastern Trumbull County, but even down into the 224 corridor and in parts of Mercer County, it was really wet in late May and through the first half of June. Some places had between 15 and 20 inches of rain in about a 5-week, 6-week span. That's a lot of rain. It did dry out fairly significantly later in the summer, but boy, that was a wet go of it late in May and early in June. Number 2, local weather story in 2019. We had 4 tornadoes in our television viewing area in 2019. 2 of those occurred on January the 8th. Extremely rare January tornadoes. One was in the Cortland area and going across extreme southern Mosquito Lake. The other was over in the northeastern corner of Mercer County. And then in summer, when we traditionally will have some severe weather and tornadic activity, June 16th, we had a pair of EF1 tornadoes in southwestern Trumbull and then central and southeastern Trumbull County. Also had an EF1 tornado back on June the 16th. We did not have any tornadoes after June 16th in our television viewing area. Our main viewing area, in case you don't know, Trumbull, Mercer, Lawrence, Mahoning, Columbiana. I know you can see us with an antenna as far west as, the Canton area and stuff like that, but, we consider our true television viewing area to be those 5 counties, so when we talk about the viewing area, that's what we're referring to. All right, number 3 on the list of top weather stories this year, it was warm again. We only had 2 cooler than average months. That was March and November. Every other month was warmer than average. It was the 19th warmest year on record, dating back to 1930, and it was the 5th year this decade that is in the top 20 on the list of warmest years on record in Youngstown. So half of our years this decade were in the top 20. And here's the list right here. 2012 was the warmest year this decade, 7th all time. And 2016, 17, 18, 19, we've had 4 consecutive top 20 warm years here in Youngstown. We had a couple of chillier years in 2013, 2014, and into 2015, but ever since then, it's been hard for it to get cold and stay cold around here. We occasionally have the cold snap, as we're always going to have, but the number of heat waves, the number of stretches of abnormal warmth, definitely on the increase in recent years, and of course in recent decades as well. If you're a longtime viewer and follower of me, I have no qualms talking about climate change, and our climate's definitely turning warmer. It's also turning wetter, and we had evidence of that earlier on this year. So look for a blog version with more graphics and more detail and more of an in-depth recap of 2019, ericwfmj.com this evening. And coming up tomorrow evening, we'll have a recap of the snow shower activity from Tuesday afternoon. We'll talk about New Year's Eve weather history here in our area, New Year's Day weather history as well, and give you an update on what to expect for the weekend and into early next week. Thanks for checking out the Monday evening edition of Weather for Weather Geeks.